Do you feel like you have to be in the zone or in the flow every single competition to do your best? Hi, I'm Dr. Patrick Cohn with Peak Performance Sports. Welcome back to another episode of the Sports Psychology Podcast. Today you're going to learn about being in the flow or being in the zone and just how often athletes get in the zone. You're watching Sessions with Doc. Before we get into it, please like this video, hit the notification bell, and if you're not a subscriber, please subscribe to the channel. I love this question. Here's the question I received from William. He said, I think to play well, I have to be in the flow, but I can't seem to enter the flow at will. How do I enter the flow at will every time I compete? Well, here's the thing, William. You're not in the zone or you're not in the flow every single competition. That's a misnomer. You're not going to get there every single competition. As a matter of fact, you're going to perform at a 7 or an 8 on most days. And rarely will you sneak up to that 9 or 10 level in terms of your performance. That's just how it goes. It's about adjusting. Early on in my career, when I was studying under Ken Revisit, Cal State Fullerton, it was all about peak experience, the flow, getting into the zone. That's what we thought back then in the mid-'80s, right? So as Ken went on his career, and he worked with the California Angels and Olympians and many other athletes, and as I've worked with athletes over the last 30 years, I've realized it's not about getting into the zone every single day. It's not about getting into the flow. Now, there's some important qualities about it, which we'll talk about in this video, but most of the time it's about adjusting when you don't have your A game, being able to play your best when you have your B game. So the objective or the goal should not be to get into the flow or the zone every single time. Let me address those two concepts because they're a little bit different from my perspective. Getting into the flow was put forth by a guy named Michele Csikszentmihalyi. He wrote the book Flow. It's a great read, by the way, if you want to check it out. He said that to get into the flow, you have to have some qualities there that allow you to get into the flow. These include clear goals, getting clear feedback about how you're doing, and becoming totally immersed. Now, his theory was anybody can get into the flow, from brushing your teeth to factory workers to chess players to musicians to athletes. As long as you have clear goals or a clear objective, you get clear feedback, and you're completely immersed into the moment. Now, there's other qualities that he talked about, like not being self-conscious, for example, but he said most people can readily get into the flow given the right conditions, is what he would say. Now, how does that differ from peak performance, or how does that differ from being in the zone? Now, the zone implies that you're performing at your top. You're a 10 out of 10. Not only are you immersed into the moment, but you're confident, you're trusting your skills, you're performing well. There's no really mental game obstacles such as anxiety, fear, worry, tension, lack of trust, distractions. You're totally into what you're doing. Now, back to the question about getting into the flow or getting into the zone every time. Now, can you make yourself get into the zone or into the flow? No, you cannot do that every single competition. But what can you do? To get into the flow, you can set the conditions or what we call the mental qualities that are going to help you get there more often. And what does that mean, the mental qualities? That means if you're focused on the moment, you're in the present moment, that's a good start. If you're not worried about what others think, that's going to help you. If you're confident that you can meet the challenge in front of you, that's going to help you perform well as well and get into the zone. If you're fearless, for example, if you're focused on the right cues. So we help athletes set the conditions for getting into the flow. And once you're into the flow, you can think of that as a mini zone where now you can launch into the zone. But I want to talk a little bit about you assessing or judging whether you're in the zone. Once you realize, oh, I'm playing in the zone, you're going to jerk yourself out of the zone. So you don't want to judge the quality of your performance while you're performing, because that will just jerk you out of the zone. So you don't want to think, am I at a 10 right now? Or am I in the zone right now? That's not going to be helpful. So bottom line is, don't judge whether you're in the flow or you're in the zone. Just stick to those important mental qualities that we talk about every single day with our athletes about being focused in the present, being confident, letting go of expectations, and trusting in your skills. That's going to help you get into that flow and launch you into the zone. Thanks for your question. Hey, if you have a question about your mental game, jump over to peaksports.com and click on Contact Us. In addition, if you want more information about one-on-one mental coaching that we do with our athletes here, then check out our one-on-one mental coaching programs at peaksports.com. Thanks for watching.